Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Arlene Gale.
Yes, hi everybody. Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we do encourage you to drop everything and read. I am Arlene Gale. I am your host, and I am so excited to welcome not only a multi-talented, wonderful author, but a friend of mine, Jan Sikes. Hi, Jan. How are you?
Hey, Arlene. I'm doing great, and I'm so excited to be here.
I am too. So we're going to have to, stay to business and not get silly and talk about things that we usually talk to, when we're having coffee or anything. So, but besides that, there's so much wonderful stuff to tell you about Jan. And while Jan and I are chit-chatting and talking about her books and who she is and what she does, I would encourage you that if you're listening, go to Twitter and use this hashtag Dear Texas Radio. That's DEARTEXAS Radio, hashtag Dear Texas Radio on Twitter. And if you have a question for Jan or a question for me, please put it there, and Jan is monitoring that, and she's going to answer any questions that you might have as you listen. So please do that. Go to Twitter at hashtag Dear Texas Radio. So I'm going to hijack your show for a second, Jan, because I want the listeners to understand the enormity of the talent that we have here today. Jan not only writes books, but short stories, and she writes songs and poetry, and even something that, the talent escapes me totally is screenplays. So you've written just about anything I can imagine writing, and everything that you write is such good quality, and we'll talk about the quality and how you get there towards the end of the show. But I want to start with your newest book called Discovery, of Poetry and Art. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Okay, I'll be glad to. The Poetry and Art book is unique in many different ways, but first and foremost, it was written and compiled by Rick Sikes during the 15 years he spent in prison. So the original documents that I had to put this book together with were typed on onion skin paper. Remember that? Or are you too young to remember that?
I do remember that, but for those of people who do not remember onion skin, just kind of describe it compared to like the copy paper that we just take for granted these days.
It is very, very thin, like you can almost see through it, and the purpose of it was actually back before we had copy machines, you would actually put a piece of carbon between what you were typing on and the onion skin paper, and it would make a copy as you were typing. So high tech,
Well,
so anyway,
for that time, it was high tech.
Yeah, it was. I mean, now you make do with what you have. But so anyway,
Right.
That's what the original document was on, and the poems in the book cover all topics from the deep, dark loneliness and isolation of prison to a crazy and twisted sense of humor. It was a means of maintaining sanity in an insane setting. The other
So you said these were writings
this,
of Rick's. So tell me,
yes.
Who is Rick, and what is the relationship between Jan Sikes and Rick
you.
Sikes?
I just assume everybody knows, but no, I was married to Rick for 25 years. He passed away in 2009, and you talk about an artist. He was such an artist in every way, in writing, in painting, in drawing, in creating. He was just a true artist. So he left behind so many things, and this poetry book being one of them. Only, of course, it needed to be compiled and converted into our modern technology. So yes, so I was married to Rick for 25 years. I had known him for over 40 years.
Wow.
And so this poetry book, besides the poems, the other thing I included in it is some of the artwork. He called them pen and ink drawings, but I have found out the proper name for the type of art he was doing for this book is called pointillism. And it is
Right.
literally thousands of tiny dots that's made from a simple ink pen. And that's kind of the uniqueness of the book, and the fact that he has been passed away for several years. So there are also some poems in the back of the book that are mine. I feel that they pale in comparison to what he wrote, but that's just me.
Okay, so you have a hardback version and you have a paperback version of Discovery, correct? Tell us the difference.
I do. The paperback version, the artwork in it is black and white, and it's a soft cover. Therefore, it's less expensive. The hardcover is the art inside it is all full color. And I am in the process of having this book converted to ebook, which I hope to have within a couple of weeks.
Will it have the color pictures in it?
It will have the color pictures, yes.
Well, I know that, coloring books for adults are all the rage right now. Is your paperback something that would be suitable for somebody to read the poetry and then sit down and process with the colored pencils and color in the drawings?
Wow. I haven't even thought of that, but they absolutely could. That had not occurred to me. What a great idea.
Okay. Well, you know what, girlfriend, I'm here for you. If you have any free time, I'll help you figure out how to spend it. So the title of the book is Discovery. Where does that title come from? The title that he gave the poetry book was Etchings in Stone. But when he recorded his last CD, he wound up giving the title to that CD. So when I decided to do this book, there's this one poem that he wrote that came from a dream or a vision or whatever you want to call it, where he was actually in solitary confinement, and which means you're isolated from everyone else because you didn't act the way they thought you ought to. So he had this vision, and this being came to him and conversed with him. And so from that, he wrote this poem, Discovery. And that was such a turning point in his life. That experience changed the way that he moved forward in life. And so it seemed appropriate that I make that the title of the book. So that it comes from that poem, Discovery. So in the poem, what kind of transition, you talk about that changes the way he lives his life. What is that transition for him?
It was all about, it was like the being was a reflection of himself, and a reflection of who he had lost, the person that he had lost, that he had forgotten existed. And it was like looking in a mirror through the eyes of this being in the vision. And from that point, he made up his mind that he was going to be and do only positive, and that he was going to do something worthwhile, even though he was locked away. And he did. And the poetry book is just one of the many things that he accomplished. But it was that determination and that decision that going forward, he was only going to be and do and think positive.
So he's locked up. He spent time in solitary confinement, and he can still focus on the positive and focus on, where he's going with his life and what his life means.
Right. It was a decision he had to make. And he used to talk about it. And he said, he first of all, he was convicted for a crime he hadn't committed. So when he got to prison, he was pretty angry. He was pretty upset because he hadn't done what he was convicted of. And so the anger and the bitterness, it didn't wear off right away. It took several years before he finally decided that wasn't any way to live. But he talked about that when he reached this point of deciding what he was going to do, he thought about trying to escape. And he, in his words, he said, if I could make it over the wall, I could escape. If they shot me off of the wall, I would still escape because I would be free. And so he contemplated all that. And then he came to the point and realization that he wanted to be the kind of person that would be worth knowing, that could do worthwhile things. And so that was his determination that carried him through all those years.
Wow. And after a story like that, I mean, it's incredible that somebody in that situation and things out of their control could hold on to something so positive. And I guess what I'm hearing is, the little resentments and little bitternesses that I have between me and whoever, really don't amount to anything. I got an example here with Rick of learning to make your life matter in whatever way, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. So that's what I get from it. So just listening to you talk. So when you put this book together, what kind of message were you hoping to send to people?
Well, because it is such a beautiful expression of one man's heart and soul, and because I believe that there are others out there struggling with difficult situations who might find encouragement or who might find comfort or just something to trigger a thought in these poems and art. And so that was what inspired me to publish it. I just felt like that it needed to be out there and that maybe someone else could benefit from his hard-earned lessons. Right.
And now you said that he wrote music and he did a CD. Did he do that also while he was in prison?
That is such a whole other story. But and in my second,
we'll talk about that another time.
In my second book, The Convict and the Rose, I go into great detail about that. But music was his salvation. Writing was his salvation. These poems, not just music, but these poems and letters. He corresponded with over 150 people. And so writing was such a therapeutic thing. And so he wrote hundreds of songs while he was incarcerated, but he also advocated for and was given permission after many, many, many years of asking to build a recording studio inside Leavenworth Prison. And to my knowledge and all the research I've done, it was the only recording studio ever inside the walls of a federal prison.
Wow, that's amazing. What a great legacy for him to leave and for you to help him continue to live. So, Jan and listeners, we're going to take a quick break and then come back and talk to Jan Sikes about another series of books that she's written and some of the other talents that she has. So please come back to Dear Texas Radio in just a moment. We'll continue our conversation with Jan Sikes.
I would like to tell you about two books I have here in front of me by a two-time award-winning author, Lori Rowley. Her books are titled Mim's Little World and Mim's Little World 2, with Mim's Little World 3 in the making. The stories are so sweet. They are beautifully handwritten and illustrated for ages 2 to 7. Discover these precious books and even get your copy signed by LoriLie.com. That's LoriLie.com.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors. McKinney, Texas has a rich history, one it embraces and loves to share with visitors. Nowhere is this more evident than McKinney's historic downtown with more than 100 eclectic shops and eateries to explore. Situated just 30 miles north of Dallas, McKinney offers the perfect getaway from the urban hustle. For more about McKinney, check out www.visitmckinney.com or call 888-649-8499. The third annual short story contest begins March 1st and runs through July 31st. Enter your short story for a chance at prizes and getting published. To learn more about this annual event, please visit our website at txshorts.com. Dear Texas would like to invite you to the McKinney Square Book Festival on June 3rd, 2017. The event will be held at the Performing Arts Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Meet 40-plus Texas authors, many of whom have won awards. Special events will take place during the day, and a special musical guest, Billy Dawson, will perform at 2 p.m. For more information, please visit our website, mckinney.deartexas.info. Wimberley Valley Tourism welcomes people to explore the many fine shops, restaurants, and wineries that make Wimberley special. More at WVTLA.com. From concept to casting, recording to post-production, Spoke Media is dedicated to creating a superlative listener experience. www.spokemedia.io. EBG 247, where you can find ebooks galore 24 hours, 7 days a week at ebg247.com. Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Arlene Gale.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dear Texas Radio. I am Arlene Gale, and I'm excited to be here to interview my friend and award-winning, best-selling Texas author, Jan Sikes. You still there with me, Jan?
I am here, and I'm still happy to be here.
Yay! Well, I want to start this second half by talking about your 4-book series, because you are living, as writers, we're not supposed to write in cliches. So I'm just going to say you're living the cliche of truth is stranger than fiction. So tell us, how does that play out in this 4-book series?
That is so true. And I often use those same words when I am talking about my books, because they are true story, but they are written like fiction. And so it's like reading a fiction novel. When you read one of my books, it's just that everything in them really did happen. So I chose to tell the story through fictitious characters because I started out writing in first person, and I very quickly realized that I could not write this story that way because I was too close to it. So a very good friend of mine suggested to me that I tell it through fictitious characters, and that was the key, because then by telling it through these characters, which are Darlena Flowers and Luke Stone, I could separate myself from the story and actually tell it. It was like taking a step back and telling it through their eyes, and it worked. It was like a magic process. And so it took 4 books to tell the story. The first one was Flowers and Stone, and it begins in 1970 in Abilene, Texas, where Luke and Darlena meet and fall in love. It's a romance with a twist, and it ends with Luke's arrest for 2 bank robberies. And as we go forward, we learn that he didn't do it, but nevertheless he was convicted. So the second book, The Convict and the Rose, is about the years he spent in prison and shows the struggles he went through, not only just to survive, but to thrive and grow. And that was what I wanted to show in that book. I didn't want to focus on how horrible prison is, because we all know that. We all know that it's not a great place to be. What I wanted to focus on was the growth and the lessons that he went through, and the things that he found that worked for him to maintain his sanity, and not only that, but to produce things that were just pretty amazing.
Wow, what a transformation! What a testimony! That's just before we go on, I want to remind people, if you're listening, if you're a writer, please go to Twitter and use the hashtag Dear Texas Radio. Spell out Texas, DEARTEXAS Radio, if you have any questions or comments for Jan. So, Jan, we're halfway through your 4-book series here. So, book number 3 is.
Absolutely. So book number 3 is Home at Last. And I call it my happy book of the 4, because it is the book where Luke is finally released from prison and he and Darlena marry. And this book is all about new beginnings. It's all about starting over and the struggles of starting over with nothing. When he came out of prison, he was 50 years old.
Wow.
And he left prison with a little small suitcase that had a change of clothes, a razor, and a pair of underwear in it. That was it. That's all he owned. And
wow.
so it was about adjustment and about learning to live again in the world. I mean, when so many things had changed. I mean, you think about how fast things progress. And so from the time that he was locked up in 1971 to when he was released in 1985, everything had changed. Cars,
right.
The roads, like there were no turn lanes in the middle of the road in 1970. There was just lanes. So it was all about adjustment and learning to incorporate back into a very changed society. There were lots and lots of struggles and lots of difficulties. But so that book is all about these new beginnings and starting over. And then toward the end of the book, he turns back to music that came about through the death of a friend, and he was asked to perform at the wake. And it happened to be here in Dallas at the Sons of Herman Hall, and it was the first time he had been on stage in 25 years, 20 years, 20 years, maybe
now,
more.
Is this the book that has the CD with them, or does every book in the series have a CD with original music?
Every book in the series has a CD that accompanies it. Flowers and Stone, the CD that goes with it, is actually music that was taken off of his 45 RPM records that he had recorded, because that's what we had back then. So, you can still hear some of the scratches as the record player is playing. Yeah, we cleaned them up the best we could. So that's the first one. The CD that accompanies The Convict and the Rose is music that was recorded inside the prison in the makeshift studio that they put together. The music that accompanies Home at Last is actually music. It has some of my songs on it. It has me singing some of my songs. It has our daughter singing, and then it has some of Rick's. And then the last book, Till Death Do Us Part, it ends the series, and even though the title is about death, and actually the book ends with death, but the book itself is all about living, and it was about squeezing out the most of every moment and accomplishing so much through sheer determination and sheer will and the drive to leave something behind, to leave a footprint. I think we all kind of have that, we all want to leave a footprint. Yeah. So, but the CD that accompanies that one is the last CD that he recorded, which was in Abilene, and it was in 2003 that he recorded that CD. And that CD is called Etchings in Stone. So, yes, each book has a CD that accompanies it that matches the time period of the story.
Wow. Okay, well, now that you've piqued everybody's interest and got them listening and wanting to buy your books, I know there's so much wonderful stuff to talk about with you that I'm afraid we're going to run out of time. So I want to go next to where can people find your books, Discovery, and then this series of 4.
Okay. Well, like everything in the world, you can get everything on Amazon, and all of my books and CDs are on Amazon. But another place that you can get my books is through my website. If you want an autographed copy, you can order through my website, because I have that all set up where it comes directly from me. I autograph the book to you, and that's the way to get an autographed copy. The other place.
And what is your website? Tell us.
My website is jansikes.com. It's really hard.
S-I-K-E-S.
S-I-K-E-S.
Right.
Jan, JANSIKES.com. And then the other place that you can get my books and the music is through the Texas Association of Authors website, that is books.txauthors.com.
Right. And you bring up the Texas authors, and you and I are both members, and I know I've found tremendous value in belonging to a group where where my people are, and meeting people like you. Can you give wannabe authors and our listeners and people who've already published even. One key thing that you feel strongly about your association with Texas authors.
Well, the one key thing to me, and it's just no question about it, is marketing. The things that I have learned about marketing through our marketing conferences, through our one-on-ones, through our leader, Alan Bourgeois, is constantly looking for new marketing avenues and opportunities for us. And to me, that has been so incredibly valuable, because marketing is the most difficult task that we as indie authors face. We don't have publishers behind us putting our books on the bookshelves. It's up to us. And so to me, that has been the most incredible thing about Texas Authors Association, is having that marketing hand up.
Yes, I agree. So again, that's books.txauthors.com, and jansykes.com is her website. What about social media? Are you doing any of that?
I do everything.
Run
Okay.
us through where we can find you on any platform.
You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @RIJANJKS. On Facebook, I am author Jan Sikes Books. On LinkedIn, you just do a search in Jan Sikes and it'll come up. I'm on Instagram. I am on Pinterest. I'm on Google Plus.
And you still have time to write books and screenplays and music, and I mean, it's just amazing, just amazing.
Barely.
So we've got 1 minute. So in this 1 minute, I want you to rack your brain and tell me, what is the number one hint that you will give people who are getting ready to publish their book? Because you are an award-winning, best-selling author. So what is the key to the quality that you produce? Go.
There is absolutely no question. The key is editing, and I don't mean editing it yourself or editing it with an app. You have to go the extra mile and hire a professional editor. Your family is not your editor. Your friends are not your editor. You have to have.
They don't know writing, right?
And they want to tell you what you want to hear, and that's not what you need. So professional editing is number one at the top of my list for any author, new or old.
Great advice and perfect timing. So, Jan, it's always a pleasure to get to hang out with you in person or online. My name is Arlene Gale, and I want to thank you all for being part of Dear Texas Radio with Jan Sikes. Find her books, figure out on her website what event she's going to be at, because you will love meeting this talented, kind, friendly, humorous woman. I am Arlene Gale, and I am leaving you with this thought. I am giving you permission to go find a good book and then drop everything and read.
You are listening to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors. Bourgeois Media and Consulting, a book publishing consultant where creative inspiration is realized. More at bourgeoismedia.com. I'm Alex Anthony, your announcer. For all inquiries regarding voiceover, narration, and announcing services as heard on this program, please make contact through voxluxstudio@gmail.com, voxluxstudio@gmail, or you can call 512-533